Hello again. This is Math 0465 coming to you from the College of DuPage. And this is an overview of the project that's described in your textbook. And the title of the project is Understanding the Opioid Epidemic. As always, please be attentive while watching these videos. So this is about your group project, and the group project is 1/3 of your grade. Everybody in the group gets the same grade depending on the quality of the group project. And this will be due near midterm, so this is important information. I have assigned the groups already. Here they are, and also I've assigned the team captains. We have a yellow group, a green group, a gray group, and a peach group. Now I'm going to read through the focus problem. The widespread use of opioid painkillers in the 1990s led to their overuse and abuse and resulted in what is commonly called the opioid epidemic. Pharmaceutical companies who manufactured the drugs assured the public and medical communities that they were not addictive, and these drugs were prescribed at increasing rates. The results were disastrous for the United States. Millions of people abused these prescribed opioids. Hundreds of thousands of people turned to heroin and other illegal drugs, and tens of thousands of people overdosed, and thousands of babies were born addicted. As the government and health agencies wrestled with the problem, the overdose statistics continued to climb. The table shown, I will show you a table in a bit, provides the data on the number of opioid-related overdose deaths for the year 2017 and 2018 for each state in the Midwest, along with the state populations. Also shown are the number of opioid prescriptions per 100,000 people for each state in 2017. And it does say in your textbook that the data for other regions of the United States are provided on My Lab Math. This is not true. I spent a day working with them, so this other data is not readily available on My Lab Math. So we're going to use a plan B. I will say more about that later, but you're not going to be able to get at these other regions' data easily. One way to put the number of overdose deaths for a state into perspective is to consider it compared to the state's population. This is often done by stating the number of overdose deaths per 100,000 people. Find a state that has a large number of deaths, but not a high rate of deaths per 100,000 people in 2017. Then find a state that has a small number of deaths, but still has a relatively high death rate, and discuss the differences here. The number of opioid deaths and the rate of change in them have been closely tracked to see if the states are bringing the epidemic under control. So find your state in the table, that's Illinois, and determine the percentage increase for the 2 years shown, from 2017 to 2018. Assume that kind of growth continues for the next 2 years. What kind of growth would you be assuming? How many drug overdose deaths would you predict for your state for 2019 and 2020? Look up the actual drug overdose deaths for your state for those 2 years. How close were your estimates? Now, again, we're going to make a pie graph using the Midwestern states of only Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin for both the percentage and population data. As mentioned before, the other data is not easily obtained. So some states fared better than others during the epidemic. Create a pie graph showing what percentage of the total drug overdose deaths occurred in each of those 5 states, and another that shows each state's percentage of the 5-state population. Which state had the greatest share of deaths? Which state had the smallest share of deaths? Is the number of overdose deaths proportional to the population of each state? The number of prescriptions written for opioid drugs in recent years also came under scrutiny as the epidemic worsened. Is there a relationship between the rate of opioid prescriptions written in a state and the rate of overdose deaths? Specifically, does it appear that the states with a higher prescription rate also had a higher death rate? Investigate this using the data for all the Midwestern states, only for that region, and include a scatter plot in your response. So you're using all the Midwestern data that I am showing you for your investigation and for your scatter plot. But again, for the pie chart, the slices of your pie should be Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Ohio, and Michigan. That's the entire pie. The other data is not readily available according to MyMathLab. And then, finally, discuss some additional aspect of the data that you find interesting. You might consider finding the total number of opioid deaths in 2018 and the percentage of the 5-state population who overdosed, or which states had the highest lower rates of overdose. The first question to discuss with your group, however, is probably, where do you start? So you're going to be having some group meetings to iron this out. Here is your data. This is in your textbook, and this is the data for the entire Midwest, and it concludes the data for the 5 states that I ask you to use for your pie chart. Now, this focus problem is an example of a real-world problem that does not have a quick, easy solution. In a complicated situation, it's not always possible to get an exact answer, and often a reasonable estimate is the best that can be done. You should not expect to be able to solve this problem today, but instead you will return to the problem several times throughout this course to apply new knowledge and skills as we acquire them. But as you work on the problem, it will help to consider George Polya's 4 steps of problem solving. You're to understand the problem. That means reading it several times carefully, identifying the tasks that need to be done, and in some cases you're going to research terminology. And then you have to make a plan, choose your strategy, list the detailed steps, and get organized. Who's doing what? This is going to be the framework that you're going to turn in early so I can react to it and provide course corrections if necessary. Then, when you get that back, you're going to carry out the plan, implement the strategy, and evaluate your progress and start over if necessary. And then you check the reasonableness of your answer and do your final write-up. So as we go, you'll be learning things that you can apply to this. And remember, the question is larger in scope, and you have to think about how to solve a challenging real-world problem. So you're going to have a framework submission, and that is you're going to talk about what do we have to do? What are some of the deliverables we have to have in our final write-up? So for example, there has to be a pie chart. There has to be a scatter plot, both from Excel. So you then take each one of those and you say what has to be done to accomplish that and who in the team is responsible for that. And so this is what you're going to be submitting, is this portion of it. This is your plan. I'm going to check to see, is this a good plan? And is everyone engaged? And I'll give you some feedback so you can do course corrections if you need to. I expect you to submit that first written group framework document to Blackboard on or before June 24th. And so that's the deadline. And you're to submit the final written group paper to Blackboard just after midterm, and that's going to be due on July 8th. So there's 2 deliverables that will happen here, and the grade will be rendered on the one that happens on July 8th. Now, since this is an online course and everybody has busy schedules, you're going to be using some tools in Blackboard to help you get this done. You will communicate with the members of your group over email, and you will have meetings with members of your group, and you can use Collaborate Ultra to meet virtually there. So these are going to be prime tools for getting this done in a virtual environment. And you're going to be submitting this to the Uploads section of Blackboard. This is where you're going to submit the framework for the group project on July 24th or before, and probably you're going to be wanting to get this as good as possible, so you're going to be closer to July 24th. And this is where you're going to submit the final group project on July 8th. In closing, now more than ever, time is precious. Each day must count. Do the math, it will make you strong. And now more than ever, take care of yourself, because self-care is important. And now more than ever, take care of each other, because we're all in this together. And in fact, you're very much in this together with your group. The group will get a grade that will contribute to your individual grade. So the path is long, a little bit uphill, but there's good stuff beyond the horizon. God bless you all, and look forward to next steps.